All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. If you've been following the news lately, you know exactly what I mean when I say trying to make sense of the daily barrage of geopolitical headlines feels a bit like drinking from a fire hose, right? It's intense. Our goal today is to take a very chaotic day of news and transform it into a structured, clear narrative so you can truly get a grip on what is happening on the global stage. So we're locking our focus right on August 23rd, 2026. Now, on the surface, the events of this specific day might seem completely random, totally disconnected. But when we zoom out a bit, we really start to see this distinct, kind of terrifying pattern of modern geopolitical instability. By categorizing these seemingly isolated events, we can connect the dots and actually understand just how fragile the whole global ecosystem is right now.
Here's our roadmap for today. We've got 4 main stops. First up, global economic flashpoints. Second, Middle East tensions escalate. Third, we'll look at how the Russia-Ukraine war shifts. And finally, unconventional and asymmetric threats.
All right, starting off with Section 1, Global Economic Flashpoints, Tariffs and Trillions. Before troops or missiles ever move, money moves. And right now, the U.S. national debt has officially crossed the $40 trillion threshold. 40 trillion? So the absolutely crucial point here is understanding what is driving this massive figure. The source data points to 3 main engines: high interest rates, significant social spending, and heavily elevated defense costs. This isn't just some big abstract number on a spreadsheet. It represents a profound weight on the global economic engine, literally restricting the financial agility of the world's largest economy. And speaking of the world's largest economy, we've got a rapidly escalating trade dispute unfolding as we speak. The U.S. just slapped massive 50% tariffs on $20 billion worth of Canadian imports. And Canada didn't blink. Prime Minister Mark Carney immediately announced reciprocal dollar-for-dollar tariffs starting September 8th. So this is happening right in our own backyard, putting a massive immediate strain on the whole North American supply chain. Which brings us to Section 2, Middle East tensions escalate, a widening crisis. Well, as we know, economic instability usually throws gasoline on geopolitical friction. Tehran has now officially warned neighboring countries against joining what they're calling a U.S.-led economic war. But here is the secondary threat, and it's what you should really take away from this. Iranian officials are threatening to completely halt oil exports through the Strait of Hormuz if tightened U.S. economic sanctions proceed. Think about that for a second. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most vital arteries for global energy. Threatening to just cut it off in response to economic pressure, that is a promise of massive, worldwide geopolitical and economic disruption. And at the exact same time, the physical conflict in the region is just incredibly active and geographically spread out. The Israeli Defense Forces are reporting strikes across multiple, distinct fronts. We're talking air and drone strikes hitting positions in Gaza, in southern Lebanon, and in southwestern Syria. It really highlights the widespread, multi-front reality of the military operations going on right now. Let's see how this builds as we check in on other conflict zones.
Moving on to Section 3, the Russia-Ukraine war shifts, diplomacy and destruction.
So pivoting over to Eastern Europe, we are seeing a really rapid deterioration of both diplomacy and physical safety. Look at this diplomatic cause and effect timeline. London decides to provide long-range missile support to Ukraine, and in direct consequence, Russia completely withdraws its ambassador to the United Kingdom. Pulling an ambassador is huge. It's a severe diplomatic signal that completely severs a primary line of communication between 2 major world powers right in the middle of a conflict. And while those diplomatic ties are just fraying in London, the kinetic reality on the ground in Ukraine remains absolutely devastating. According to reports, a Russian drone attack struck a shopping center right in Volodymyr Zelensky's own hometown. The facts reported from the ground are tragic and highly specific. The strike resulted in at least 15 fatalities. It's a really stark reminder of the daily physical toll of this ongoing war directly impacting civilian infrastructure. Now, right in the middle of all this destruction, Ukraine is facing some massive internal political questions, specifically regarding elections. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has officially rejected calls to hold wartime elections. His stated rationale? To protect national cohesion. He's essentially arguing that attempting to organize a democratic vote while the nation is under active attack and experiencing daily strikes presents a severe, unexceptional risk to the stability of the country. Okay, finally, Section 4, unconventional and asymmetric threats, hidden dangerous. Moving beyond traditional warfare, we're facing disruptions that are just incredibly complex to defend against. For example, what hidden danger do you think intense summer European wildfires are uncovering right now? I know, it reads almost like science fiction, but this is literally happening today. The answer is UXO, or unexploded ordnance. Think about this. Across Europe, there are countless bombs still buried deep in the soil from World War I and World War II. Now, intense summer wildfires are sweeping across these areas, heating the ground up to such a degree that these century-old munitions are actually detonating. Talk about a staggering juxtaposition, right? A very modern climate crisis is actively triggering a 20th century historical threat, creating incredibly dangerous and complicated conditions for modern firefighting efforts. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the crazy, diverse nature of modern threats. In the physical realm, you've got wildfires and exploding historical bombs threatening infrastructure. Meanwhile, over in the digital realm, a cyber attack linked to Iranian state-backed actors effectively forced a UK domestic power plant entirely offline. Critical infrastructure is simultaneously being hammered by random environmental anomalies and highly targeted state-backed digital actors.
So what does this all mean? The ultimate question you should take away from this explainer today is this. How can a world dealing with a $40 trillion debt burden effectively manage simultaneous kinetic wars, state-sponsored cyber attacks, and compounding environmental crises? The events of August 23, 2026 show us that these aren't just isolated incidents. They are an interconnected, tangled web of pressure points. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this complex material. Keep analyzing the headlines, keep questioning the sources, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.